Okay, so now I'm going to talk about a couple of things. So the first one is how to create value with digital for companies. It seems like it is a very basic question, but actually it is really a key question, because we will see that most companies are actually doing a lot of things on digital, but they are not actually creating value with digital. So we will talk about this, which is, by the way, the very reason why Alkemy was founded 8 years ago. And the second point is we will try to understand what actually digital transformation really is. Okay, few slides. So I'm gonna take 10 minutes so that we have time for the questions later on. So I'll start with this slide, which is a slide that is, though in different forms, was also shown by Paul. So this is the market, the overall market cap of the top 5 companies in the world, December 2005 and December 2017. What happened? So if we go back to 2005, actually the top 5 companies actually saw just one company which was digital to some extent. It was Microsoft. Then in between 2005 and 2009, actually 2 things happened. So the first one is the Lehman crisis that actually decreased the overall value of economy, and then the launch of iPhone that to some extent was considered the foundation of digital. So what happened from that time on is that the economy actually grew a lot, almost tripled. And by the way, this is very, very much representative of the whole economy. And so to some extent, we can say that other things being equal, but digital actually created value in the economy. But what happened, so here you can see the evolution still of the top 5 companies by market cap, is that in 2017, the top 5 companies were all digital. So what this chart is saying actually that the value created by digital, and digital created a lot of value over time, was actually captured by digital companies. So now let's go to the following one. Okay, let's start from the upper side of the slide. So regarding to digital, there are actually 3 different phases for companies. So the first one is where companies are actually doing nothing with digital or doing poorly with digital, meaning that maybe they are not experiencing the e-commerce, they have, I don't know, their touch points are very poor. So this is the first phase. Then there is a second one where actually companies are doing good things on digital. So actually they have maybe started to work on e-commerce, they have, I don't know, good touch points, they have opened up channels, but they are actually doing business exactly as they used to do before. So they have actually not used these levers. And with digital, I'm talking about broader sense, all the technologies that also Paul was mentioning. So we're talking about data, we're talking about artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So actually, they are doing digital, they are using digital, they are open up digital channels, but the company is the same. And then there is a third phase, a first stage, where actually companies are using all these levers in order to really transform the way they do business. So means that increasing the value of the experience that they are providing to their customers, they are doing different things or the same things differently. And this is the distribution of companies. So few companies now, by the way, when we started in 2012, especially in Italy, there were a lot of companies still in the first phase of these 3 phases, let's say, evolution. Now there are few companies, but most of the companies are actually in the central phase. If we go to the lower part of the slides, you can see the value creation. And you can see that the very moment when companies are actually creating value for them with digital is in the first stage. By the way, in the second one, the situation is that they are even investing because, for instance, if you have, I don't know, social channels, you have to pay Facebook in order to have promoted your post. If you want to start selling products online at the beginning and you're not using well the channels, maybe you are cannibalizing your products, and so on and so forth. The moment where you are really creating value is when you are using all these levers in order to really enhance the value that you provide to your customers. Then last year we did a study together with Egon Zehnder and Repubblica, which is one of the main let's say newspapers in Italy, and on all the stock, the listed companies in Italy, so something like 350, and this is the real distribution of companies. So not that different from the one that we qualitatively we were actually drawing. So 1/3 of the companies in Italy are actually in the first phase. So we will see, it depends a lot on industries, of course, that most of the companies, so more than half of the companies are actually in this segregated digital, and only 10% are in full digital. And by the way, considering Italy, we could also say that they are at the beginning of this first stage, which means that at the moment, the companies are investing, quote unquote, in digital, but they are not creating value. This is the same picture, but by industries. Again, still based on the same study that we did last year. And so you have that the industrial world is far behind. So and then of course you have exception, but this is the average of the industries. And then on the other side you have financial services. And by the way, you can perceive that, let's say, the closer you are to final customers, let's say, the harder is the push in order to move to digital. But this is the situation. So why companies are struggling so much actually to do the first step? Because actually to transform the business is actually a very deep process, a process that can last 7 to 10 years. Why that? Because actually, I don't like this digital disruption word, but actually digital has introduced 3 great disruption in any business model. And these are the 3 main ones. So the first one is the customer experience. So digital has allowed company to manage directly the customer experience of clients from the moment when they start creating the need up until the very end. So when they start getting information to satisfy their need, and once they have the information, they make evaluation, then they make the purchase, they use, then they repurchase, and so on and so forth. So think of a consumer goods company, automotive company. Actually, they were not exposed to clients. Of course, they were making commercials, they were making research, but they were not in touch with customers. Now, as a company, you can, starting from the moment when customer is not actually a customer, it's just a prospect, and start creating a need up until the whole value chain. Second, so digital has created tons of data. So this data can really enhance the way that companies manage their business. So years ago, companies were taking the decision based on historical data. Then in the 80s, the companies they started actually to make in market research, try to anticipate. So now companies have the possibility to take decisions, all decisions based on, let's say, pricing, based on channels, whatever, based on actual real-time data. Of course, in order to do that, you need, first of all, to have the touch points. Second, you need to collect this data and to analyze this data. But then there is the fourth stage, which is the toughest one. You have to rewire all your processes in order to capitalize on this value. And then there is the third one, which is to some extent more subtle, because it's innovation. So 20 years ago, companies had to innovate on their core business. So they had the competencies to do innovation. The only thing is that they needed to have money, and the bigger they were, the more money they had in order to create innovation, investing in their R&D. Now the situation is much more complicated, because in order to be innovative, you need to be innovative even and also in competencies that you don't have, companies that are outside your scope. So it's no longer, let's say, sufficient to be big. So if you are big, not necessarily you can be innovative. And by the way, some of the charts that Paul showed are actually proving that, which is an advantage for small, aggressive, and visionary companies, but it's a potentially a disadvantage for, let's say, the incumbent. So it's very important for companies to try and develop models in order to internalize innovation, which is coming very often from outside companies. So again, these three levels are very, very complicated. So you can see that it's much more than having a nice and well-designed website or selling some products through Amazon or through your, let's say, proprietary e-commerce. And by the way, and this is my last slide, so to leave time and rooms for the question. So this is digital transformation. Digital transformation means moving from the second to the third stage. Digital transformation means using all the possibility offered by the new technology, digital data, machine learning, blockchain, and so on and so forth, in order to really rewire your business model to become more competitive. And it's a process that lasts 5 to 10 years, so it's a very long process, and it requires the whole company to move, not just the digital department. And it's really, let's say, critical to have a full commitment of the top management and the whole board in order to do and to carry out this process.